Again, welcome everyone. I'm Mary Linda Moss. I am an artist and activist from Los Angeles and am one of the founding members of NELA, Alliance for Democracy, Northeast LA. We're a local grassroots collective in Northeast LA committed to nonviolent action in the defense of democracy. We build community, offer education, connect with people with possible actions, and develop and help people develop the skills that we'll need to defend our democracy. Here is our website and also our email. If there's anything that you need from us, feel free to email us. You can also, if you email, you can get on our email list on our website. There's also a place to join us. Whether you're local or somewhere else, we do regular programming. We have a monthly West Coast Connection call where we are connecting people all up and down the coast. And we are very deeply involved in California with No Concentration Camps California and other local coalitions. We're also working nationally with Disappeared in America, and we're very involved in the action this weekend, the Day of Action and Accountability, Justice for All, and organized here in LA. I hope all of you were able to participate in events over the weekend. There's a lot of work that needs to be done to defend our democracy and keep things moving in the right direction and to fight things like AI taking over of our country. So I will now pass it over to Frida, and she will take it from there.
Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. I'm Frida Afari. I am an Iranian-American librarian and writer in Los Angeles. And I've been working with the NELA Alliance from the time it started. And I'm grateful to all my fellow activists, and Mary Linda. And I also wanted to acknowledge Bill Kelly, who's here, who's one of the founding members of the Alliance and also a co-host for tonight's meeting. So, and also one of the co-organizers of this series. So artificial intelligence poses a major threat to human civilization. It is taking away jobs and being used for surveillance and incarceration. It is destroying the environment with polluting data centers. It is mixing fact with disinformation and taking away foundational skills needed for human critical thinking. Even some big tech leaders have admitted that AI could result in catastrophic consequences. We hear that every day. That is why the Northeast Los Angeles Alliance for Democracy has organized this 4-part series to address these concerns and offer ideas for resistance and action. As we wrote in the companion brochure for this series, and I put the link to the brochure in the chat, as we wrote in the companion brochure, artificial intelligence is not intelligence defined as, quote, the ability to learn, understand, and form judgments based on reason, unquote. That is the Cambridge Dictionary definition of intelligence from 2026. So artificial intelligence is not intelligence in that sense. Artificial intelligence claims to imitate human thinking by using computer code, which learns by rote from massive amounts of information and disinformation legally and illegally obtained from the internet. It uses algorithms to sequence words or images and generate data that is a mixture of truth and falsehoods. In contrast, human critical thinking stems from people experiencing reality in a bodily and natural environmental setting and social context. When engaging in critical thinking, humans evaluate data based on valid conceptual frameworks, background knowledge, and experience, and through self-deliberation and active deliberation with other people. So it's in that sense that we're speaking of human critical thinking and intelligence. The human mind can be creative, develop meaning and new ideas. Toward the aim of promoting critical thinking, this webinar series explores 4 topics: AI and labor, AI and the environment, AI and education, AI and surveillance, incarceration. For today's session on AI and labor, the background and conceptual framework offered in the companion brochure is that AI is not only cutting and de-skilling existing jobs, AI is in effect a newer stage of automation. In the 20th century, automation intensified the division of labor to the point of quantifying movements of workers' bodies with the aim of maximizing output and minimizing costs for capitalism at the expense of human and environmental health. On the Ford auto assembly line, humans were treated as robots, with emphasis on the speed of production. In 21st century Amazon warehouses and similar sites, AI increases the intensity of the surveillance of every movement of the body to increase speed, which also increases injuries. Furthermore, state capitalism in our time is also offering big tech monopolies tax cuts, subsidies, and deregulation to thwart labor organizing. So it's in this context that we will hear from today's speakers who represent three fields of labor. Our first speaker is James Saccardo. James Saccardo is the political director of Amazon Labor Union, International Brotherhood of Teamsters, Local 1 in New York City. He works to advance pro-worker laws and ensure that workers' voices shape public policy. Our second speaker is Lee Barker. Lee Barker is a psychiatric nurse in Kansas City, Missouri, and a proud member of National Nurses Organizing Committee, an affiliate of National Nurses United. Our third speaker is Harold Moss. Harold Moss is the founder of Emmy Award-winning animation, production, and technology studio Flickr Lab in New York. He has been producing every kind of media across all platforms since 1999 for social causes and organizations, educational efforts, and a variety of brands. Each of them will speak for 10 to 15 minutes. Then we will have a half hour for questions and discussion. And once again, you can get the companion brochure for the series by going to the Northeast LA Alliance website. Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to hearing from the speakers and from all of you.
So we have James now, who is going to be speaking first, and I have turned off the chat, so it will be turned back on again. Thank you so much, James.
Thank you, Mary Linda. Thank you, Frida. Thank you, Bill, for having me today. It's amazing that I have a platform to share what I go through in my warehouse. My name is James Ricardo. I work in Staten Island, New York at JFKE. I'm a shop steward and the political director of ALU IBT Local 1. Just some background on us. We were founded in 2021 out of JFKE by Christian Smalls and a bunch of other co-workers who were involved in the labor movement then. Really, the driving movement at the time was COVID, but as time has evolved, a lot has changed. And one of our main focuses now is AI in the warehouse. It touches everyone in our warehouse and everyone in the Amazon network. Just to jump right into it, in our warehouse, especially in New York, we are tracked at every move that we make, every box that we touch, every unit that we produce is tracked, and it's all on a rate basis. Everything comes back to rate. In New York, we do have a legislative protection against rate. It's called the Warehouse Worker Protection Act, also known as the WWPA. This limits Amazon's ability to set a rate in the building, and if a rate is set, it must be provided to us in writing or at the start of the job, so we are informed of the rate. But Amazon has found a unique way to get around this. Amazon uses a combination of what we call in the warehouse TOT, or time off task, and they also put us up against each other. So they have a 100 percentile, which is how we are graded per se in the warehouse. And the bottom 5%, if you if you fall in that bottom 5%, you are essentially written up. After four write-ups, you're terminated. And this is all in an algorithm that we don't really understand and is not provided to us clearly. Um, there's always going to be a bottom 5%, no matter how hard we work, and we were all put up against each other, and it kind of creates this atmosphere in the warehouse where we need to be faster, and it puts safety on the back burner in the warehouse, it puts productivity first at all times. Uh, and this causes organizing the warehouse to go cold. It creates fear in the warehouse. It takes the priority off of people and more on Amazon's production. In the warehouse, also, AI is being pushed in the human resources department greatly. If we have a problem, if we need a leave, if there's a medical emergency, we are redirected to this chatbot called AZA, and it's hard to get human help for a human issue. If I'm sick, if my loved ones are sick, if there's an emergency, you have to go through this chatbot. It takes time. And the AI scans everything and they want documentation for everything, and it's very invasive. And there's no way to get a human response almost. In some warehouses, the HR department has been phased out completely and replaced with AI. And everything falls on the managers. And the managers are also focused on production. They don't have time to deal with our issues. So it creates this gap between management and associates. Uh, they say that a computer can never be held accountable, so a computer should never make a management decision. But at Amazon, it happens all the time. We're graded by Amazon, we're fired by Amazon. Amazon calculates how many people to hire through AI, and everything just falls back on this algorithm that isn't shared with employees and that management hides behind. Sometimes we don't even know if it's the AI, if it's, targeting on organizers. It's just this automatic fallback for Amazon to fall back on. Amazon has their hand in everything. Amazon also has a contract with the Israeli government. It's called Project Nimbus. And not to get too deep into it, but the same surveillance AI that is used on us is used overseas in Gaza, and it's tested out on us in the warehouse, and we're almost Amazon's test subjects, and it's something that we have to use as organizing fuel in the warehouse. We have to come together. But Amazon uses it to create this division because I need to be faster. I need this job. I don't have time to organize. And it creates this barrier that I can't emphasize enough. And it really puts a wedge in organizing. And it's a tool that they use to disorganize and to union bust in the warehouse. Amazon hasn't publicly spoken about Project Nimbus. It's a project that is in collusion with Google, and Google says it's purely for civilian use and it's not for occupier use. But Amazon has stayed purposely quiet on this, and it's something that comes up in the warehouse. It's something that we also use it to organize around. Um, and it's just it isn't right the way Amazon has used AI, and Amazon will never use it for the right reasons. Um, it creates this. I know I keep saying it, but it creates this wedge. And when you try to talk to workers, they're scared. They feel surveilled at every moment. Amazon creates this parental leadership that's always over our shoulder, and we feel like we are always being watched with everything we do. We almost don't feel safe to speak about certain things in the warehouse because it will come back to us. It has come back to organizers. Certain things that are said, certain organizing that has been done on the floor that there's no one around, there's no leadership around. we get pulled into management and it's, well, why are you having this petition on the floor? Why are you signing this petition? Why are you here when you're not scheduled? And it's there's too many people in the warehouse for Amazon to track everybody. But if they use AI, everybody can be tracked at every point in time for everything that they do. And that's really what I want to emphasize on that in the Amazon warehouse, in the from the parking lot, from the time that you pull into the parking lot to the time you leave the warehouse, you are tracked at every step you make, every mistake. If you slow down, it, if you have a problem, if you have a problem, automatically they don't know. Automatically they don't want to hear about it. It's all about production. There's no emphasis on safety. There's no emphasis on people. It's all about production at the end of the day. And that's really all I have to say about the warehouse. But I'm really grateful to have the opportunity to speak. And thank you, Frida. Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Mary, Linda.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. If you can unmute yourself, Lee.
Thank you, Mary Linda. I'm glad to be here. Just like James said, I'm glad to have this platform and to speak about the issues that are affecting me and other nurses in the workforce. Like I was introduced, I am a registered nurse. I work at Research Medical Center in Kansas City, Missouri, which is an HCA facility. HCA is the Healthcare Corporation of America. They're one of the biggest, if not the biggest, for-profit healthcare systems in the U.S. I believe that last year they reported over $6 billion of profit, and that's just sickening. The biggest way that HCA makes their profit is by prioritizing short staffing. You know, the less nurses that you have to pay, the more money you have left over to take home. And it puts our patients at risk. HCA is continually putting profits over patients. And the newest way that they're doing this with AI, at least in my facility, is they've partnered with Palantir, which is an AI like data surveillance tech giant. Palantir created the Elite app that ICE is using for their raids, and they're also using technologies to further the warfare and genocide that's happening in Palestine. So Palantir created Timpani, which is an AI scheduling system that HCA is using. Timpani pushes their short staffing agenda. And like I said, short staffing negatively impacts the care that our patients receive. If we have fewer nurses, that means nurses are taking care of more patients at a time, and each patient gets less time with the nurse at the bedside. They're getting poorer quality care. We're being asked essentially to do more with less. And just a couple other things to know about Palantir. At least 15 hospital systems in the US are using Palantir software. It's not always the scheduling system. It can be used for bed management, like insurance denials being automated. And according to hospital executives, Palantir does manage 21% of all US hospital beds. The way that the AI scheduling system, Timpani, works for us, to my understanding, is that it looks at the average daily census of the unit, determines how many nurses should be needed for that, and staffs exactly that many nurses and no more. It doesn't account for any call-ins, doesn't account for the census potentially being higher, doesn't account for the acuity on the unit or how sick the patients are. If we have sicker patients, they need more care. It takes more time. We might need more nurses to care for them. And kind of like James said, the Timpani uses an algorithm that we don't really understand. It's kind of a black box. We put in our preferences and say, these are the days I'm available to work. And Timpani spits out a schedule that sometimes doesn't match up with at all the availability I said I had, or my coworkers say they have. We don't know what's going on in the Timpani algorithm. We have contract language in our collective bargaining agreement about the development of schedules. Timpani has been continually stepping all over that. One of the biggest things is that the hospital says that they will make a good faith attempt to reach agreement with a nurse if there's a change in the schedule the preferences we submit. Timpani is not following that at all. We didn't used to have this issue. Before Timpani rolled out, we were told we were given all kinds of promises that Timpani would make scheduling easier. It would take a load off of our managers so that they could help us with other needs. It would increase the flexibility that we have with our scheduling, and none of that has been true so far. The schedule system, it's harder to use. Again, it's inflexible. The preferences I put in are not honored. I get no notice if they're taking me off of a Monday to put me on a Thursday. And again, they're short staffing us. Another promise that we were given, we had to fill out like an about me section on Timpani, saying how long I've been a nurse, how long I've been a nurse at this unit, some of the skills that I have or certifications that I have. We were told that Timpani would make sure that there is an even mix of skill and experience on the floor so that we don't end up with like new graduate nurses with less than 6 months of experience running a unit by themselves. That's not safe. But unfortunately, what we are seeing, what I've seen a couple of times at my hospital is 3 new graduate nurses scheduled on a unit all by themselves. No experienced nurse in sight. And again, nurses who are freshly off orientation, still kind of getting their feet under them. You want to have an experienced nurse on the floor as well, someone who's familiar with the unit and how it functions. And if you've got all new nurses, we're putting our patients at risk. A couple of the other issues we've been having are with our like template schedules. We've had some nurses that were hired in 5-10 years ago, and management said, every week you'll work a Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. And that's how they've worked for the last 5 or 10 years. Timpani is not honoring that template schedule. These nurses are being scheduled all over the place because, again, we don't understand the data that goes into Timpani and how it spits the schedule out. I've had several nurses tell me as a nurse rep that they might have to leave our hospital because of the scheduling issues. They've got childcare to take care of. They have a custody agreement that says these are the days they need to work, and they've got their kids the rest of the time. And that's only going to further the staffing shortage that we're already being hurt with. And what's really frustrating about all of the issues with Timpani is that it seems like it would be an easy fix. Nurses know what the issues are. We've communicated to our managers. We're communicating with HCA, like at the bargaining tables. But HCA and Timpani, they have no interest in fixing the problems because the system is working as intended. Again, they're putting profits over patient care. If they're short staffing the hospitals, they're taking home, they're getting the bottom line. And again, that's sickening to us. Some of the ways that we are fighting back, we've got a Purge Palantir campaign that NNU is part of. We've got at my hospital, and I believe some of the other unionized HCA hospitals, we have Delete Timpani and Purge Palantir buttons that we're wearing on our scrubs or on our badges. If patients ask us, like, what does that mean? We get to tell them, your care is being impacted because the hospital wants to meet their bottom line. We did have a recent win as well. Some nurses in Maine just got their hospital to drop a Palantir contract. I think that was just in the last week. We also, when we bargained in 2024, got a new technology article in our CBA, providing protections for new tech that's being introduced with a direct impact on patient care. Staffing is directly tied to patient care. We're actively using our contract to grieve the issues that we're having with Timpani. Of course, HCA will say that, it's a scheduling app. It's not direct patient care. It is. And the last thing I wanted to let you guys know about is on August 27th, National Nurses United will be leading a national day of action against Palantir in Los Angeles and 7 other cities around the country. You can sign our letter to HCA against Palantir. and you can get some more details about the nearest location to you where you can participate in this day of action. Uh, Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Harold Moss. You can go ahead and speak.
Well, I think what you said, the promises versus what was delivery is something that we need to keep in mind around every area of AI. As it's being integrated, is that it's promising curing cancer and it's delivering surveillance and fascism and ecological destruction. And that's we're going to see across the board in every area of endeavor is the promise versus what actually is being done. And so I think that's incredibly important. I want to start with a few big picture things before I dive into some of the details around in film. First of all, to back up what Frida said, is there is no I in AI. These are not intelligent systems. It's a lie. They are pretending that, while maybe theoretically someday artificial intelligence is possible, nothing about what's being built now is leading to that. Nobody who understands what they're talking about is doing that. Even when they talk about the fact that they're worried that their AI is going to take over the world, it's a lie, because the scarier it is, the more people will give them hundreds of billions of dollars. There is no I in AI, and there's often even less behind the people who are driving it. But why is it happening? Why are we seeing this incredible drive? Real quickly, I think if we look at right now, capitalism, as it literally burns down everything, is trying to find the next $1 trillion industry, and they're just desperate to find a place where they can pull that out. Of course, it's a scam, because as everything is at these end days, these are money losing industries, and we're probably going to be very quickly dealing with the aftermath of a massive bubble pop, which is going to affect, when we talk about labor and AI, that's going to be a huge thing, and it will potentially drive the rise of fascism as social systems collapse after all of this money has been poured into that. So they're trying to find the next $1 trillion, but mainly they're doing a rug pull. Second, automation, as James talked about so brutally. Well, you didn't talk brutally, but the automation is brutal, and Frida brought up. They dream of de-skilling workers. They dream of actually, some of them to the point of actually dreaming of a world without workers, really without much of humanity. This is the dream of automation. Now, I don't think automation is not inherently bad. The problem is capital-driven automation, which is automation to increase profit and to de-skill and take away agency and the autonomy of our own bodies and safety of our bodies. The problem is who's driving the automation. We want automation. We want dangerous, dirty, unpleasant things to be made easier. When workers are in charge of automation, generally that's to improve quality, to improve safety, to improve life quality. When capital is in charge of it, it's to increase profits and reduce the safety and the well-being of the humans involved in the process. The one thing that AI is very good at is surveillance and building up towards fascism. Not because it's accurate, but because they don't care. And I think, James, again, you spoke so well about that. What's happening in an Amazon warehouse is on the way for all of us. They don't care that it's inaccurate. They don't care that it's error prone. The point is if you're frightened, if you're always being watched, it's doing its job. Doesn't matter how many innocent people get scooped up, how many people who were doing their job well or something else happened, they get fired, doesn't matter. The point is the fear. And the final thing, and I think this is relevant, which is that some of these people don't just dream of de-skilling workers to the point of meaninglessness. They actually are transhumanists. A lot of these people running these companies see their job as actually getting rid of humanity, going past humanity. It's delusional. These people are crazy. Billionaires are not particularly smart for the most part, and they are definitely sociopathic. There's been a lot of studies on this. To make your billions, you lose your ability to understand that other people have internal lives. But this is actually what's driving a lot of this. So when they talk about curing cancer, that's not what's happening. So before I go into a few of the specifics in the film thing, when we talk about automation, there's a great term called centaur, which is that's when automation works. A centaur is when a machine helps a person do things that are more safely, more rapidly. But it's a human head on a machine. The agency is there with a person. And this I got from Cory Doctorow, though it's part of automation theory, who I really recommend on this topic. What they're building are reverse centaurs, where the machine has the agency and the human is the body, whose well-being and safety is meaningless. So we want AI. AI is not in and of itself, or whatever we're going to call it, AI. It's that we want to be centaurs, not reverse centaurs. We want to take away the danger. We want to make what we do more effective. We want to make things safer. We want to work less. They're trying to turn people into machines themselves, and the machines drive it. So that's really what happens. That's really, I think, when we look at automation, is it capital-driven automation, or is it labor and worker and people-driven automation? And the same thing about what the future is. So when we look at AI in any industry, first of all, this term, because everyone's just trying to scoop up the billions, AI actually covers a lot of different technologies. Some of them are quite useful. Machine learning, deep learning. These are things where systems can learn to recognize patterns and so forth. These can be very helpful. In film, I'm not anti-AI in film. There are things that I use where I can be a centaur. For instance, separating a human from a background for special effects. I spent the 90s pulling little handles around to do that frame by frame. Now machine learning can make a lot of that automated. That's great. I know what I'm trying to do, and it's just simplifying a task. This is what was promised to the nurses and was taken away. We're going to simplify the task. There are things that can do this in film. Reducing noise in a bad soundtrack. These are the sorts of things where you are a centaur. You are using a tool that takes something that would be very laborious or impossible and doing it. However, what we're seeing, as in every other industry, is something quite different. And that's particularly in our industry, it's generative AI, which is and basically, let's be clear what generative AI is. Generative AI, which is, when you see the AI videos and hear AI deepfakes and AI sound, it's just plagiarism machines. It's just they've scraped all the video, all the screenplays, all the novels. They're actually, and I know we've got some librarians on here. Anthropic, for instance, has bought millions of books, including last single editions, rare ones, and scanned them and shredded them so that there's no other existence except for what they've fed into their machine. These are plagiarism machines. That's all there are. They scrape everything up. And what we're seeing in our industry is trying to turn the labor in the filmmaking process into reverse centaurs, where actors are turned into it because they have no rights, right? They don't demand conditions. They work 24 hours a day, writing, storyboarding, visual effects, and now, of course, they're trying to sell us on this idea of entire filmmaking. And this is the same thing. So this idea of what is the automation, they want filmmaking to also be full of reverse centaurs, and eventually they dream, of course, of shoving all the human agency, all the human creators out of it. What, in fact, generative AI, which generates nothing, it just takes up and regurgitates things it's stolen, is that it flattens creativity. And we see this in all areas. It flattens creativity. People are, because it's just taking all of existing knowledge, kind of regurgitating it, it's doing this. You'll notice this, all the social media posts that sound kind of the same. They make a point, and another point. And then they say this, and this is what's happening in film writing. This is what's happening in television. It flattens creativity because it's just regurgitating what's done. Everybody who uses it starts to sound more and more and more like. It also flattens the brain. It smooths the brain out. For writing, when people start using large language models for writing, they lose the ability to write. When you use it to search, you lose the ability to search. In fact, it's taking away our ability to think. And so it's the issues in the film industry are different, but the same, right? They're going to be the same in every issue. It's not as much about surveillance. It's not as much about scheduling, although a lot of the labor issues, film involves a lot of similar kinds of labor, so we'll see some of that as well. But it really is about taking away the agency. I think in film, though, the last couple of points I want to make, and then I will wrap up, is that the film and the media industry have a couple other issues that I think are significant when we're looking at this. One is that they're throwing so much money into trying to create AI films, AI studios, and all of this because of the role that media plays in building culture, and they're trying to sell the idea that this is a thing. And that's why you see all these sometimes major, Martin fucking Scorsese saying he's like, I'm going to use AI for storyboarding because they're throwing money at everyone and saying, I'm going to finance your next film because they've got to get the next 100 billion to try and pretend they're going to get artificial intelligence. So a lot of this is there's a huge amount of money going in media because they're trying to get the story that this is a thing before the bubble pops and they can pull their money out. And I think that's one of the particular things in film that's going on. The other is, and this is a really terrifying thing, which is that media is also how we get our information about the world. And a big part of what's going on is it's tied in with the surveillance state that they're building. It's tied in to, yes, Netflix dreams of being able to just create AI slop, automated, that requires no labor and has no rights payments. Yes, and they're doing that, and they want us to be able to have such smooth brains that we can't watch a full film or even a full TV episode anymore. But even more significantly in the film industry is that they want to take away the idea of truth itself. And this is what's happening with AI use in political advertising, AI use all of the other places, is that they want to rob the idea that we can even understand that something is real, and that you just either become placid or you become hopeless at being able to change things. And this is one of the areas I think in film, and this is why I get in regular fights and in politics, and education, and all of the media about how why using Gen AI is a bad choice creatively, a bad choice production wise, but also why nobody should fucking touch it, because these are the film industry in particular has a responsibility for helping preserve the idea that there is a truth and that there is a reality and that there is something that we should be doing. And this has been, I've had to argue with liberals. I don't really work with conservatives in the political space, but liberals as well, saying, oh, can't we just do this? Can't we just use this tool? And it's like, generative AI is, I would categorically say, is the language of fascism. And that's why the Republicans love to use it and the far right loves to use it. But I think it's one of the particular things in the film industry is standing up to this, because of we are the way that so much of knowledge is transmitted and reality is understood. And so protecting the idea of reality itself becomes something that I think is incredibly important within the film industry.
Thank you so much, Harold. Frida, do you want to go ahead and we'll undo the chat? And
Yeah, I mean, I really appreciate all three presentations. There's so much in each one to explore. And the only thing that I would like to say is that, to me, it really helps us grasp the critiques offered by James, Lee, and Harold, if we see that capitalism is not just about rich people, the big tech owners trying to fill up their pockets. They are just the embodiment of the mode of production that's doing this to us. So it's a mode of production that's making the labor mechanical, alienated, that is constantly trying to reduce labor time, not to give people more leisure time to do other things, but to produce more in less time and to use fewer human beings. So I think if we offer these critiques in the context of challenging the capitalist mode of production itself, and not only going after the big tech guys or women, in some cases, we would really get a lot further. So I would love to hear from others, and I hope that all three presentations could be written up and published. We could publish them on the Northeast LA Alliance page, and I am also on the editorial board of New Politics. I'm sure New Politics would love to publish them. So let's think about that. Thank you, and I look forward to questions and comments from others.
Thank you, Frida. I'm going to be reading questions. I've got a question, and that is that particularly for healthcare, Lee, healthcare is something that everyone needs, and eventually people do wind up in hospitals. And it seems that in hospitals, the staffing is a key thing to the quality of care. And I've spent some time in hospitals with relatives, elderly relatives recently, and it's hard to get staff to attend to people. So, and this is in a hospital. I don't believe it's being scheduled by AI. But how bad is that? How does it actually affect an individual patient? Like an example.
Um, I wanted to go off of first of all the short staffing is a problem across the country. Something that we hear a lot is that there aren't enough nurses. There's a nursing shortage in the country, and that's not true. What we're seeing is a manufactured staffing crisis. There are over, I believe, the labor statistics last I knew was that there are over 1 million nurses with an active nursing license in the country that are not they are not working a bedside nursing job. We are not short on nurses in the country. We are short on nurses that are willing to put up with the moral injury and the moral distress that the hospital systems put on us. When I know that the right thing to do for my patients and I can't do it because I don't have the time, I don't have the resources, I don't have the support from my management. That's where we're losing nurses. And yes, to give a more specific example about short staffing having an impact on patients. I work with a nurse who I think would be fine with me sharing this story. I work in psych specifically. I care for our ratios that the hospital give us is 1 nurse to 8 patients. For a while last year, they were trying to push us to like 10, 11, or 12 patients a piece. That's ridiculous, insanely unsafe. But there was a time where this nurse was caring for, I believe she had 10 or 11 patients. Right at the start of the shift, probably 7:45, patient comes up to the nurse's station, wants to talk. She's tearful. She needs probably 10 or 15 minutes of time from this nurse. But there are other patients on the unit who are maybe more psychotic, more potentially aggressive or violent, that we've got to take care of kind of first. It's a priority game. We want to get people want to take their meds and go to bed. She's like, okay, give me like 15 minutes. I'm going to take care of a couple other people really quickly, and then I'll have time to sit down and talk with you. This poor patient, I believe, had to sit there for over an hour crying at the desk. There was nothing to do because there were other patients that had more urgent needs. They were about to act out. They were going to start a fight on the unit or something. And we've got to take care of that safety before I have time to sit down and talk with you. And it hurts my heart when I know that I have patients that just need to sit and talk with me for a few minutes, and I don't have time to do that because I have to pass my meds on time. I have to do my assessments before my patients go to bed. And it sucks. We need more nurses taking care of fewer patients in order to give the quality care that our patients deserve, frankly. That was a long-winded answer, but I think did that answer?
No, that's okay. That's a good example, I think. Here's the question that's come in, and that's that. Do any of this is for all the people who are speaking tonight. Does your colleagues sometimes push back and say, well, AI may be good, uh, and if so, how do you overcome that, with them in the workplace, particularly if you're trying to organize, James? Does anyone think it's AI is virtuous?
So in the warehouse, I haven't heard anyone talk positively about AI being used against us. It does become a different topic in people's personal lives. There are people who love generative AI, as Harold was talking about, and people who use AI. You ask them a question, and immediately they turn to AI and they ask AI. Um, but as far as it goes in the warehouse, I haven't really, and it's not even a personal bias. Even management sometimes gets frustrated with the staffing AI, but how it moves us around at its own free will. And I mean, it sometimes it fights against management. Management wants to put us somewhere else where it would be more beneficial for the team, but the AI staffing system doesn't even let it. In the warehouse, it's really it's there's really no positive from people who are actually dealing with it in the day to day. Again, in people's personal lives, it's a little bit different, and it takes a little more sitting down and explaining with people that, even in your personal life, there's no like it's been going around this webinar. There's no I doesn't stand for intelligence in AI. It doesn't benefit them, but it's a longer conversation on that aspect.
Mhm. Another question for you, James, is everyone has read, I think that not AI particularly, but Amazon makes it hard for people to, even go to the restroom during a shift. Uh, and the question is, are there any labor laws that that apply in this situation so that people, can have the time they need, breaks and being able to go to the restroom?
So restroom is a protected right. I can't quote. I don't know if it's involved in the WWPA, but I know it is a federal protection that you have the right to step off the floor and go to the bathroom. Um, I saw the question was pertaining to drivers. I used to work with drivers. So currently I'm
Yeah.
in a fulfillment center. I used to work in a delivery station. I've never driven for Amazon, but I used to work closely with the drivers that would help load the trucks. And it was a real complaint from drivers. And Amazon also has this thing called walkers. So the site I used to work at used to deliver to the Upper East Side of Manhattan. So it would be a box truck that would go and be fully loaded, and it would park up for the day. And these walkers would meet the truck there, and that's essentially where they would clock in and start their day. And I, if anyone has been to Manhattan, it is hard to find a bathroom without having to spend your own money. If you go to a Starbucks, they want you to buy something. If you go to a residential building, often there's no public bathrooms. So on top of it being hard to find a bathroom, you're also tracked. So if you take too long to find a bathroom, that's a problem in Amazon's eyes for your TOT. And it does go against federal regulation of having the right to use the bathroom. Um, I've seen personally, I've seen issues with that. Um, Lately, I haven't really been in the warehouse, but I do because of the Teamsters, I do interact with drivers, not as frequently as the warehouse, but pretty frequently, and it's still a real
Mhm.
issue for
Mhm.
drivers to be able to even locate a bathroom and take the time. It's often a back and forth with the dispatcher, and if they even have a good dispatcher that is understanding and sympathetic to that situation, which is a situation we all deal with. We all have to use the bathroom.
Right. Uh, Question has come in as to whether both of your unions are, I mean, in other words, what are you doing to get the word out to the general public, to patients, to Amazon customers, about how AI is being used um, in the workplace and the the detrimental things that you bring up about just sort of inhumanely being used.
I'll make some space for Lee. Lee, you can go first on this issue.
So National Nurses United, National Nurses Organizing Committee has been on the forefront. We've been warning the public about AI usage in hospitals for years now. Um, we put on right, and like coming up, we have our National Day of Action on August 27th. Like I said, we're tied to the Purge Palantir campaign. Um, the win that I talked about, the nurses in Maine that got their Palantir contract dropped by their hospital was because they did public actions outside of their hospital, like a press conference. Um, uh, we've had nurses do interviews with newspapers, radio. I've done a couple in Kansas City. I know nurses across the country are speaking with their local like news stations about this is how AI is being used in my workplace, and this is how it's bad. We are doing everything we can to raise the red flag. That's why I'm on this call, honestly, with all of you to raise the red flag.
Of course, you have your campaign related to Palantir being used by HCA. So,
Yes.
and you have a letter that people can sign. I've just put the link in the chat.
Yes.
People can sign that and get information then about the actions at the Palantir locations in 7 cities across the country. So that's another thing you're doing, I guess. James, one of the things that's come up, I think, for a lot of people is you are a part of the Teamsters, as we understand it, and the president of the Teamsters has been friendly with Donald Trump. And what is the attitude of people, within the warehouse about this within your union?
Uh, so a lot of people in the warehouse, we are focused on uh our picture in the warehouse, not so much as the upper leadership. The We are focused on the bigger picture, but the upper leadership, we understand that no one's coming to save us. We are here for each other. The important thing is building our community in the warehouse, building our community with our sister warehouses close by, our drivers in the close warehouses in the New York region, and understanding that our power comes from our labor there. Um, it is a touchy subject going higher up with Sean O'Brien and Fred Zuckerman. But the Amazon division is very tight knit, and we understand that the only way that we are going to get to the point of a collective bargaining agreement is if we come together, if we show Amazon that AI can't replace us. It's not there yet. It may never get there, but our labor is what drives Amazon's profit machine. Like Harold said before, I really took note of it. The upside down centaur is really what's going on in Amazon. Instead of Amazon creating something that makes my job easier, it's creating something to force me to do my job faster, me and my coworkers, to have the stream of work never end. And I see in the comments in the chat, the best way to make that stream of work end for us is to stop ordering from Amazon, to go out local, go shop at your local grocery store, the mom and pop shop. If the AI has nothing for us to assign us, there's nothing for the AI to do, and it fails. If there's no one there to move the boxes that the AI says to move, the AI fails. It doesn't make our job easier. It doesn't make our life in the warehouse easier. It just makes it's just a way for Amazon to streamline its work and to push that production to the next level, and at the sacrifice of humans, of people, at the end of the day. Um, but we in New York are pushing back against Amazon's AI through legislation, especially finding some bite in the WWPA, the Warehouse Worker Protection Act. Um, but at the national level, I know we are pushing the Faster Labor Contracts Act, which would give the best way to fight back against AI would be a collective bargaining agreement to get Amazon to sit down, to have workers have a say at the table. Um, no one else is coming to save us. That is the way. That is the best way. There, especially in the current political climate, there's no way to push legislation against this. I mean, there is a way, but it's hard. It's gritty. The best way, and the way that will have the most bite, a way for workers to be able to enforce it, is a bargaining agreement with Amazon.
Thank you. Um, One of the things I'm wondering about is in New York, you have a new mayor, and I'm wondering, does this signify uh, potential change that would be beneficial to people working in New York?
Uh, It already has. We have pushed legislation called the sick and safe time leave. I don't know if it's the act or, but so sick and safe time is 32 hours allotted to every employee in New York City, um, to be able to take off on a whim, day of, whenever you need it. And it gives you time to go to a doctor's appointment, go be with your family. And we played a role in getting that passed. We sat down with the mayor, um, and talked with him and shared our stories and explained why this is important to us. And this was in his first week of leadership in New York City, and it has been so effective in the warehouse. So Amazon has three time off methods for full-time employees: unpaid time, UPT, PTO, which is paid time off, and then flexible PTO, which is time you can put in the same way as sick and safe time on a whim, and it's paid. The sick and safe time has saved a lot of people's jobs when UPT runs. So if you go negative in UPT, you're up for termination in Amazon's eyes. And this sick and safe time has saved more employees than I can count, especially just here in JFK8. It has been a safety net for employees. Even though it's unpaid, it's better to have a job at the end of the day and not lose your job than to worry about getting paid in that moment. There's other ways that we can help people there, but to have that anchor for people to keep their job is is tremendous. And we are working with the mayor's office to push other legislation that will help workers. And it is refreshing to have someone in leadership in local government that has our backs when it feels like the Fed is against us. Even it's hard to push stuff at the state level, even though New York is very blue, it's very time consuming. This was instant. And to have that just that support and that resource to be able to work with DCWP, Department of Consumer and Worker Protections, have that tight knit bond to be able to escalate violations urgently because they are uh, sympathetic to our cause. And it has been, I can't even begin to emphasize how beneficial it has been to the ALU to have that relationship with DCWP in the mayor's office. Violations that would take so much time to escalate have been able to be escalated quicker, and we've been able to hold Amazon accountable. The big thing is we can push as much legislation as we want, but if it has no bite, Amazon will just ignore it. So to be able to find our bite back, in the meantime, while we try to get the collective bargaining agreement, has been so beneficial.
Great. Another question has come in, and this is for everyone. Have the employers or companies that you've worked with, for instance, Harold, disclosed what the cost of using AI is basically?
It's
the cost
so,
to the employer.
Yeah, the whole thing is the AI companies. I was just seeing Cory Doctorow, I called out earlier, say that they're selling $100 bills for $1, right? It's a pyramid scheme right now. This entire industry. The technology is going to be around. Not all of it will go away, but most of these data centers, most of these hundreds of billions of dollars, it's a scam. They are losing money every time somebody uses their services. And they tried to put a little bit more of the cost in towards the big companies, and all the big companies started freaking out and telling. They had been saying, like, for programming, they say use tokens. It's called tokens, AI tokens. They were like, whoever uses the most tokens gets an promotion and all that. Suddenly, the companies all started backing off because they just started to put just a little piece of the real cost of the AI into the companies, and the companies are like, oh, this isn't worth it. Because also, AI as it is now doesn't really work, except for it doesn't replace workers, and it's not going to the way it's doing it. So the whole thing right now, there's layers to this, but the whole thing right now it's a big pyramid scheme. We're about to see it pop. I mean, we've already started to see that with SpaceX and some of the other stocks that just came out
Hmm.
that came down. The costs are absurd. They're all racing two things. They're either delusional and think they're going to get a super intelligence and take over the world, literally, or they're racing to pull their money out, and that's why they're trying to go public to push it into people's pension funds, and that's why,
Hmm.
like Elon Musk forced they made a backroom deal with the stock market, forced pension funds and so forth to buy SpaceX before it was a very irregular thing. So there is no good economic model for AI. Later, there will be some. China's making smaller, more efficient ones. Stuff is going to be around, but there is no good economic justification. It's all it's con artistry all the way down, and it costs so much more than it saves. The
Hmm.
efficiencies are false. The biggest thing it's effective for is taking away agency, safety, control, all the things that Lee and James talked about so well. It's super expensive. It's an absurd bubble based on lie after lie after lie after lie, and all it's doing is good at doing is creating fear, frankly, at this point in the workplace.
How about Lee and James? Have your employers shared what they're spending on AI in your
No,
workplace?
no, I have no idea. I'm sure it's not cheap,
No.
but they're touting it as a way, I'm sure, to save money, take the burden off of our managers. I don't know what it costs, but I don't think it's going to be worth it.
My
James?
my answer is the same as Lee. It has not been shared. I have, I mean, there's a human cost there though, because I've spoken to corporate employees who have, been employed by Amazon to code, and they don't know what they're coding for. They're just writing this code, and they find out what it's used for, and it breaks their heart. That's not what they got into this field to do. And there's a human cost there. Amazon touts it as something to save money, but it's hurting us.
Programmers who have control over what they're doing, who are centaurs, can use some of these tools really effectively, and they love it. People who are forced into using the tools to be reverse centaurs hate it, and it creates crap. It creates crap all the way around, and that's I think one of the things that we all need to be fighting for is social control over these technologies, right? That's the bigger picture, is that these things need to be socially controlled. We need to have we can't let a few random sociopaths run the board with this. And that's going to be the labor movement's going to be the most critical part of that. The political movement, people like Mamdani and others, vote for the socialists when you can, to be able to try and change the playing field and actually take it away. The crash is going to open up misery, but also some opportunities, because this is all about to fall flat in its face, and that's going to bring about a lot of systems collapse, because a third of our stock market is tied up in a bubble right now. So be prepared, but there will also be opportunity, and that's where the labor movement is going to be really critical. Is who pays the price when this whole house of cards comes falling down, possibly in months, maybe a year or two.
Harold, what's happening to bit actors? Los Angeles, for instance, is full of people that have made a living on bit acting in commercials. What's happening to
Well,
these
what the
people
industry
now?
was trying to do is get the rights to, you hire somebody for one day, they scan you, and they can use your likeness forever. This is again where labor is so critical, that the SAG-AFTRA, the Actors Union, has fought against that. Also, the Writers Union has been fighting against that. No AI generated thing can be considered authored. So this is a point of ongoing contention, that the bit actors are the most vulnerable. They're wanting us, if anyone's in the industry, like Variety keeps talking about Tilly, this theoretical actor. It's just paid for slop conversations about fake actors and actresses. But the bit actors really are the most danger, because they're not actually required to act in the same way. So while the union's been fighting for protections on that, I think that they are the most vulnerable right now.
Mhm.
Stunt people, bit actors. There's a range of people who are getting their work taken away from them.
Thank you. I'd like to see if Frida has a question or two since
Yeah,
she put this together.
thank you. I have two questions. One is if we could go around and have each of the speakers talk about ideas for resistance. And secondly, um, on Harold's on filmmaking, I'm very concerned about how this generative AI is affecting gender relations in our society, and really, really intensifying misogyny. So, what are your thoughts on that? And maybe Harold, you could talk about that, and then each of you could talk about ideas for resistance.
Well, generative AI is a language of fascism, and we're seeing that in terms of and because it's a regurgitation plagiarism machine, it pulls the worst aspects of representation of the female body, but also racial aspects. And you're seeing that in the political advertising with, the Obamas as gorillas from AI videos from the this sort of thing. I think that the fascists are using it. Also, if you go on TikTok, you will see black welfare recipients trying to cheat on their Snap things. AI generated, horrible racist caricatures, AI generated. And at this point, if you're not really paying attention, you think it's real. It's just more rage bait. So this is being used quite intentionally to generate, to reinforce racism, sexism, transphobia, homophobia, every area of oppression. So it's being used intentionally to create disinformation and to reinforce those things. And then in the technically political space, it's just bringing forth and reflecting all of the racist and sexist ideas about body and about beauty and about all of these things. So absolutely, it's even in technically non-political arenas, it's being used to reinforce that very much impossible standards of beauty. And social media has already done such incredible damage on this front that this is just supercharging it. And I mean, I think that, again, it's going to collapse a lot of this on its own, but a lot of it's going to be bet that. So I'll let the other two speak because they're actually doing the most important work of stopping it in terms of steps forward.
On the topic of how to fight back, what to do to fight back. NNU has endorsed a bill put forth by Senator Sanders, the AI Data Center Moratorium Act. What you can do on your local level, reach out to your representatives, reach out to your legislators, say we don't want AI, we don't want data centers being built in our city. Here in Kansas City, they're trying to build a data center on top of a 120-year-old historic building.
Just to echo what Lee said, contact your representatives, let them know how you feel. And on an even easier level, the way everyone can help out is go on your phone and delete that Amazon app. Do not order from Amazon. Give their AI no work to do. Give them no work. Give them none of your money. It takes the work away from me, my coworkers, but it also withholds those funds from Amazon. That's where they make their money, by ordering their products. Tell your friends, tell your family, stop ordering Amazon. Shop local as much as you can. That's really the easiest way right now that everyone in this webinar can fight back. It's don't order Amazon.
And I think one of the most critical things is the labor movement needs to generalize, right? These are not issues of individual industries or workplaces. These are issues for all of humanity, frankly, but certainly the entire working class. I mean, I think that the most individual thing is the UAW's call for a May Day general strike in 2028, which is to pull the entire labor movement together. I think that aligned with the political movements and pulling socialist candidates into office, and the local movements against data centers are all incredibly critical. I know there's another one. I'll be definitely back for the one on education because I do a lot of work in education, and it's catastrophic what's happening in education as well. They want to turn our schools into Amazon warehouses, frankly. But I think that the generalizing of the labor movement and starting to actually counter the billionaire power with class power is becoming an existential question, not just for the labor movement, but for human survival, frankly, which is why I keep saying thanking the two of you, because the frontline work you're doing is the most important work on the planet right now on so many very functional levels. So I think looking at how do we generalize the movement, look towards things like the 2028 May Day general strike that the UAW has been calling for, and tying it into the political movements. And then, frankly, shame the fuck out of people for sharing AI slop, try and convince people not to be. People are asking LLMs, large language models, chats, who they should vote for, convince people that these things are bad actors, not just full of bad information, but misinformation. So convince people, and by letting a large language model into your brain. It's dangerous on every level. So I think some of that socializing that this is the way that AI is being done on the behalf of the billionaires is a clear and present danger on every level, and people should not allow it in any space of their lives unless there's a way that you're, like a machine learning thing where you can be the centaur and you're using it, but do not start surrendering your ability to think to the machine in this way.
Okay, Frida, you want to close us out?
So please come to the next session, which is on AI and the environment. And it's a week from today, same time, 6 p.m. Pacific time, 9 p.m. Eastern time. And our speakers are Bill Kelly and Jose Ortiz Partida, who's a professor of environmental studies and very active in local environmental work, especially on opposition to data centers. So it will be very informative, and you will hear new voices. And then, of course, the next one after that, education and surveillance. Each of these will bring out the dimensions that I think would be really informative to everyone and offer ideas for resistance and for bringing us together. So if you signed up via Zoom to register for this meeting, you'll get the recording. Feel free to write to Nela. And thank you, Mary Linda. Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Lee and James and Harold. And we will continue. This is not going to be the end. So we're going to continue.
Yes.
Just the beginning of our dialogue about how to fight back.
Thank you. And thank you all for such an incredible talk today. Really informative. Thank you all for being here. Thank you, Harold. Thank you, James. Thank you, Lee. Always thank you, Frida. And Bill, thank you so much for managing all of that for us today.
And Bill, would you please save the chat for me too? Because somehow I'm not able to click on that button. So send it to me later.
Thank you all.
Take care, everyone.
Thank you all.
Okay.
Good night.
Good night. Thank you.